What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Bit of a peculiar day today, isn't it? So the story is there are 2 points in Bitcoin that you do need to be paying attention to. But this week, the data that's going to be released, and I'm not talking about any FOMC data or any data regarding the US economy. I'm talking about earnings. It's a very big week for tech. Let's just park the idea of what's happened with OpenAI and Broadcom. That was huge. But more importantly, how's it going to impact these two levels that we've got on Bitcoin that we need to pay close attention to? Because either one breaks, it's going to be a good day or it's going to be a shocking time. Or actually, no, let's just take that back. It might actually mean you'll be able to just do some more buying of Bitcoin on the premise that it is going to continue to the upside. I mean, CZ said that he thinks Bitcoin's going to go to 500,000 to 1 million. So we've got a nice little price projection right there. And then this story about liquidations. Hyperliquid CEOs come out saying that Binance is not really truly revealing the liquidations. And he's saying that whatever Binance have actually declared is actually 100x more than what they're saying. Do you know what, ladies and gentlemen? We have had a very difficult event in crypto. If anything, it's kind of knocked the confidence of a lot of people should we even get into cryptocurrency, which means that investors are only going to look to the assets that hold. Now, Bitcoin moves up and down 10%. That's just light work for Bitcoin. It can do that in the Asian session. Don't need New York to do it. But you can see clear as day that Bitcoin reacted quite aggressively to the news regarding Trump and China. But don't worry, that's all nipped in the bin. China's just come out, said that they're actually going to be removing exemptions for any US, or should I say, what was it? Any Chinese-made ships that operate in the US, they're exempt from certain fees when it comes to ships. So Trump gives them a 100% tariff, and then they turn around and say, all right, we'll cut the fees on any ships that come in and out of exports and what have you. That's the Trump playbook, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to break it all down and help you guys understand. Game on, Black Swan. I mean, look, I don't think it is a Black Swan yet. Nah, the market, the only Black Swan event, okay, that could actually happen is if something catastrophic happens. Remember, a Black Swan is not something you can prepare for. You can't really prepare for it because it's a Black Swan event. It's out of nowhere. It just happens. We know that the Bank of Japan are going to increase their interest rates. So we can park the idea that that could be a Black Swan. We know that AI is doing really great right now. What would have to happen is NVIDIA would have to turn around and default on something, or they would have to have a significant loss on any of their earnings. It's not going to happen, is it? When you're the market leader of the AI game. The Black Swan would have, my opinion, the Black Swan would have to be someone defaulting. And I've got a chart here that kind of puts things into perspective. Check this out. In front of you is the Fed overnight reverse repurchase agreements. Basically, the Fed says, give us your money. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that. We're going to give you a bond. Top of that, we're going to pay you interest. And then we're going to reverse the transaction. So Wall Street, welcome to what is deemed as the savings account for Wall Street. Now, for the first time in history, okay, I'm talking since it started, 4.12 billion. No one's interested in US bonds. That's pretty dead. If they're not interested in putting their money in a savings account with the US government, what are they interested in? Well, they're interested in other things. Bitcoin, gold, silver, just look at what you are witnessing here. Do you know how much gold's gone up by? It's like it's the equivalent of nearly $10 trillion market cap in principle. What did the Kabasi letter say? Something to that effect. This is concerning. Yet the stock market today did really well. It was a treacherous day. Really, it was a treacherous day in terms of price action. Didn't manage to make much today. I traded a very small amount. We made 5K today trading the futures. Didn't play any options because the options chain itself was so expensive. It was like just to open at a strike. I was being offered at 110, 115. There was nothing for us in that sense to actually do anything today. So I didn't take any options plays. But NASDAQ was being very tricky, and I knew it would always be tricky today. So I only scalped it earlier on. But this price action on NASDAQ was absolutely shocking. Look at it. Yeah, it wasn't ideal. And had a nice little reversal from the lows, but that was it. Nothing significant. Bitcoin is even not really done too well. Well, it has actually. I think out of everything, Solana's the one that has smashed it. Solana's the only one that's moved really well. So if you manage to pick up Solana, nice little W formation at the lows right there, sweeping the actual initial balance of the Asian session high and low in the first hour of trading Tokyo. So Platinum members, I hope you managed to exploit that one. Ethereum, she did all right too. Looking at dominance, back down to that 59 after that scary 63. What was it? Oh my days, 62 and I know 63 nearly on the nose. But let's just get into the levels that I'm talking to you guys about and then break down the logic. Here we go. So there are two important levels on Bitcoin that you need to be very careful of. And those two levels are, of course, the all-time high over here. And then you've got this level down here at 100K, right? Now, what have you got happening this week? This week, ladies and gentlemen, you've got Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow. We already had a Fed speaker today, Paulson, turning around saying that the target is still 2%. And they keep on talking down the idea that tariffs are going to have an impact on the marketplace. However, they can't do anything until we've got the data. But apparently the Federal Reserve has enough data. Can you believe that? He said that we've got enough data to make an assumption about where we could be heading in the future. So then why does Powell keep on talking about the idea of more data? It doesn't make sense. Anyways, cut with that. Let me break down these levels that you need to be understanding. 124,518 and then the 100K mark. Okay. Now, why are these 2 points important? Yeah, it is a 24K difference, but we are effectively nearly smack in the middle-ish on Bitcoin. What you've got to do is just go over to the weekly time frame. Okay. You can see that there is a green candle, red candle formation. Usually this structure leads to a continuation to the upside, but it's all going to be dependent on what happens in terms of news announcements. And I do believe that this move to the downside has been engineered for the earnings that's coming out this week. So Tuesday, we've got JP Morgan. We've got the banks coming out tomorrow. If JP Morgan turns around and says everything's all good, then that's going to bring a bit of optimism in the marketplace. But it's not going to really be enough for the NASDAQ to really climb, okay? Maybe the S&P, but the banks, we can only assume they're going to be doing well because interest rates are high. So people are having to pay more rates of interest and what have you. But then we need to look at the financial products that JP Morgan are actually selling. Are they actually earning money off it? Which means that we're probably going to see and hear more about the trading activities of JP Morgan on behalf of their clients. And what we found is the majority of the earnings results that have come out regarding these banks is, of course, the demand that is being taken from their clients to place trades. So in other words, they're just earning off the fees of the clients that are being very active in the marketplace. So that's going to be very important to understand if JP Morgan does do well on that basis. But Wednesday, you've got ASML holding. That right there is going to tell us where we are in the future for AI. If ASML is making all these chips, then cool. Things are looking good for AI. More importantly, Thursday, you've got the TSM Semiconductor Index. And of course, ISRG. Please, ladies and gentlemen, just pay attention to this stock. Let me just bring it up for you. ISRG. Intuitive Surgical. Just pay attention to it. It is a heavyweight, it's not an old company, but it is a very, very interesting company. It's pulling back ever so slightly, and it's happening on relatively decent volume. But what you've got to understand is this. Companies in the in the medical industry, all right? Anywhere in the medical industry, when the stock market's doing well, these guys tend to pull back a little bit, as well as defense-based stocks. So when you see both medical and defense, aerospace and defense pulling back, you can understand that the stock market is favoring risk on in other sectors. when things start to get a little bit bad, these companies are the ones that end up doing well. Now, they've got an earnings per share due in 8 days' time, okay? So 8 days' time, how does that make sense? 16th. Oh, ish. No, it's in 3 days' time. They might have got that wrong on here. Wait. No, they must have that wrong. Earnings per share due in 8 days. Doesn't make sense. 21st of October. It might have been revised, ladies and gentlemen. We don't know. No. Yeah, it might have been revised. Anyways, so yeah, just focus on these sort of companies. If they're pulling back, you can appreciate that the economy is, or investors are very optimistic about things. Okay, just remember that when you are trying to find which stocks to buy, because during economic struggles, defense and aerospace and medical always do well. This pullback, in my opinion, is a discount on this company. Very interesting company. Now, Bitcoin. So my logic is this. I'm going to simplify it and tell you Bitcoin breaks all-time high, it's off. Bitcoin breaks back down towards this wick and eats 100,800. You're going to have yourself a little bit of a problem all the way down to 74. Now, the only way or reason why Bitcoin would go down is if there is a change in the way the data is being presented. If there are going to be no rate cuts, okay, investors won't like that. If there is a problem in the AI market and TSM and ASML don't do well with their earnings, okay, that's going to be a problem for the NASDAQ. Bitcoin could easily react to it. That could change investor sentiment. But the way the market is being skewed right now with, of course, the fact that the US and the China story, investors are all looking for a positive outcome with that. We've just had the hostages released, so Trump has sorted that out. If anything breaks down with China, the market will react. So as long as there is no influence of China, there is no problem with the data in terms of earnings, and everything seems to work well, Bitcoin's trajectory is to continue higher. Now, all we're doing is we're just taking key information that we know is going to come out at some point. We know that Trump and China are going to be all right. All right? Trump's only going to turn around and say, yep, we're going to remove the tariff or we're going to reduce the tariff because China has acted first. Trump hasn't said anything yet. So we're still pending a response from Trump. That's why you got to wait. You have to wait. This area here for Bitcoin is very, very critical. If Bitcoin trades sideways, then it will be a good opportunity for you to accumulate it. Okay? Stay away from leverage. Really, stay away from leverage. Because leverage is going to hurt you if you don't know how to use it. It's a double-edged sword. It really is. You can use it and make a ton of cash, but you can equally lose a ton of cash. So if you want to be sure with it and give yourself flexibility, use Bitcoin on spot. All right. Speaking of which, looking at the order flow, you can see Bitcoin hasn't done anything. Everyone's a little bit scared. Let's be honest now. They are. Because Bitcoin ain't moving. All the bids down below, down here, they're not even that big either. About 7 million, 8 million. It's not that much. Offers wise, 2 million. Oh, we got a nice big order there, 45 million. Where was that? Hold on a second. How close was that? 45 million. Someone is eager to sell. That means they obviously bought the right discount. Here we go. 40 million right there. 116,688. It's only just shy of nearly $1,200 away. And then we've got another one. Where was it? It was 42. I saw it. 87. Okay. 87 million tells me that someone down here has picked up a stack of Bitcoin. Someone down here has picked up a stack of Bitcoin. 87 million on the offer side, 123,000. That is big news, ladies and gentlemen. But looking at the way the calendar's looking, Powell tomorrow has to say, yeah, we're on track to cut the rates. That's all he has to say tomorrow. Actually, where's he speaking? Due to participate in a moderated discussion about the economic outlook and monetary policy of national associations for business, yeah, whatever. He's going to talk wet. That's what he's going to be doing. They ain't going to be giving that much anyways. Okay. Everyone got wrecked. Yeah. Sneaky fib trader. Who's that? The risk to crypto right now is the overvaluation of the stock market. That is true. The overvaluation of the stock market. But here's overvaluation. Okay. Look at this. This company just nipped it in the bud today and got into a relationship with OpenAI. Where is it? There you go. Broadcom soared 10% as OpenAI agreed to buy its custom chips and networking equipment in a multi-year agreement. So you go back and look at the chart and you say to yourself, okay, then where are we at with that? Does that look overvalued? Investors don't care if it's overvalued because when you get into bed with a company that is known by many with, what is it? A valuation of nearly $500 million. Okay. $500 billion nearly. Yeah, 500 billion. Yeah, $500 billion. Right? And they're spending money to buy Broadcom's chips. The idea of value, or should I say overvalue, doesn't matter because this is an emotional situation. They want to get in. They don't want to miss out. It might trickle over. But the way the AI market's operating right now, guys, is all they need to say is, we're going to get into bed with this company. We're going to get into bed with this company. We're going to do business with this company. Everyone's going to be like, wow, that's going to be beneficial for the earnings per share in the future. If you go and have a look at Broadcom's earnings per share, okay, where are we at? Broadcom, there you go. Look at their earnings per share. Look at that. Absolutely wild. So this year, estimated, you would have earned yourself $6.75 for every share that you held with Broadcom. Equally, in 2026, you're going to be earning $9.28 for every share that you hold with Broadcom. That ain't bad, man. You know? 6,883 funds hold this stock. Going into the daily to look at the quarterly announcements, okay? Quarter end January 31st, 2025. Earnings was 45%. Sales was 25%. Going into the next month, next quarter, 44% on earnings, 20% on sales. Going into July 25th, 2025 quarter, you got earnings at 36 and 22% on sales. What does that tell you? It's consistent. This is stellar fundamentals. Makes sense why OpenAI are getting involved with Broadcom. So that's now going to encourage investors to step in and just load up on this stock. So the idea of overvalue, well, from what perspective? Look at the fundamentals. If you start basing the overvaluation of stocks in terms of theoretical formulas, then yeah, everything is overvalued, but you can't kill someone's opinion of what looks good in the future. You can't stop them from doing anything about that. You will believe Bitcoin's going to be like increase in price massively. Even if I told you that an EMP will wipe out Bitcoin, it will go in the bin, you still buy it. Even if I told you the date that it's going to happen, you'll be like, I don't care. I'm going to buy Bitcoin anyway. Why? Because it's the idea of Bitcoin that everybody loves. Same thing with the idea of valuations in the stock market. They don't care. And it's clear as day because there is the prospect of business happening. And people don't want to miss out on that. So that's why you're seeing various stocks, AI stocks, just absolutely ripping it right now. What actually happened to Serve? I spoke about Serve last week. Serve Robotics. What's going on with that? Serve Robotics done really well to recover. Look, it just shows you the drop from Friday and everything is just recovered back up. It's doing great. Where is QBTS? Where's my favorite? QBTS. How is that doing? D-Wave Quantum. Look at that. Disgusting. Look at it. On volume above average, and it's not even finished yet. $1, sorry, it's out of hours markets. It's nearly trading at nearly 1% up. Is this overvalued? Probably. Go to the weekly. Yeah, definitely. All-time highs. Is it? Wait. Yeah. Look at it. And that's the monthly chart. Not doing bad. Quantum computing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you. Get with it, because they're saying that quantum computing is going to effectively make AI do things quicker. It's a company that is part of it. I mean, it develops quantum computing systems, software, and services. But yeah, we were talking about this when it was around $10 and $8, $9 or something like that. Yeah, 12. So is that $40 now? 41. You done good on that one. And I know a few of you took advantage of that bad boy. Oh shit, where did the hair go? Right. Anyways, quickly going into this story over here. Where is it? The open interest. So Andrew Tate has come around and said that open interest or leverage is the devil and all of that stuff, and it's going to impact crypto and what have you. And well, he kind of is right, because futures markets are dictating Bitcoin's price. That's why. Why? Because that's where the money's at. Up here, you got nearly 826 million. Over here, you got another 792 million. And then they've just wiped out this open interest area, but there's nothing happening other than this little zone down here of 586. There's no big open interest coming into the marketplace right now. It really isn't. You can see that. Let's just have a look at the orders here. Real quantum computers, your brain. Yeah, I guess so. Here we go. Yeah. It's just one big order here. No real liquidity, which is what 27 million that is, which is why I'm saying to you guys, the week itself, with the data of earnings from the tech stocks, it's going to trigger Bitcoin to make a move. Now, there are people that are still expecting Bitcoin to pull back. Ethereum is due to take its all-time high whenever it decides to take it. And to be frank with you, it's doing very, very well to sustain itself in this range. Okay? So Ethereum will claim the all-time high again. It just needs motivation to do so. Okay? In other words, everything across the board needs to be good. When you're looking at Ethereum, pay attention to the NASDAQ. You'll find that they both move similarly. They really do. And that's because I've watched Ethereum. I've been trading Ethereum and trading the NASDAQ at the same time. And you start to see things. When you see the NASDAQ moving aggressively, Ethereum starts to move up as well. Then Bitcoin starts to make its move. But that's for another time. Quickly going into the ETF. It's just going up. Yep. Capped out the top side, 71. And that week, not bad. I think the ETF is going to succeed around $150. That's my expectation, which should send Bitcoin roughly to around, yeah, maybe the 200K, maybe, possibly, maybe. That's where it could send it. Easy. I mean, I'm giving you some crazy price projections right now. But let me just get back to the basis of this live stream. So these two levels themselves are going to be motivated by news, not Bitcoin. That's the truth. And you've got to understand that. The news will force Bitcoin to move because it will force participants to get involved in it. If we lose this wick, we have a problem. We can expect a recovery of it, but if we lose it, we're going to have a big problem. Bitcoin will come down and test the next level, which will be around the 74. What could trigger that? I don't think the Bank of Japan increasing the interest rates will trigger that. Why? Because the move will be exactly like this. It will be a stop, run down, and back up. NASDAQ is still above the 5 and 13 EMA on the weekly time frame. And you go to the daily chart itself, and you can see it's doing fine. Like nothing's happened. Nothing. There's your proof why no one thinks anything is overvalued. Gold has hit a price target of 4K. Where do we go now? Gold's going up. Simple as. 4,500 is my next price point. We're going up with gold. You'll get a couple of pullbacks, no doubt. They will pull things back and then they will continue up. But there is absolute phenomenal strength in gold. I would go and get your chains, ladies and gentlemen, and have them revalued. If you do hold any gold bars or anything like that, okay, coin, bullion, whatever it is, all right? I know most of you hold some form of gold. Go and get it revalued and just see what you get for it. I hope some of you hold on to silver, because we were talking about silver when it was $18, $19, and I gave you the $50 price projection. And that bad boy's at $52.32. Yeah. It was a very interesting accumulation of silver I was picking up back then. Go to Costco, okay? And you will find that they sell silver bars, right? I was buying that bar for £250, right? Go and have a look at what that is now. It will actually blow your minds on what the value of that silver bar is. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, to save you the journey, it's going for like £1,500 now. How mad is that? How crazy is that? But it's a problem when you see gold and silver doing this, because it tells you that investors are kind of concerned about something. So what they're going to do is they're going to price it in. Subprime mortgage crisis, gold was rising, oil was rising. Once the subprime mortgage crisis was declared, that's when they started to roll it over. In other words, the hedge had been achieved. But there is real accumulation right now in silver. Real. And it's all being driven by AI. Simple as. So you've got interest rates being cut. That's fueling gold's price. Okay. The prospect of war ending, but gold still going up. They don't care about that. They don't. They know that interest rates are coming down. So the yield on dollar is lower, but gold is a zero yielding asset. Silver's going up. Banks are accumulating silver. China's to blame for this accumulation of gold. And dollar debasement? Nah, even Paulson today said it, FOMC. He doesn't see that the dollar itself is going to be compromised as the world's reserve currency. It's not. It really won't be, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what people say about it. They will not allow it to. If this market hasn't made you believe that it's so manipulated, do you actually think that their dollar, their beautiful dollar, is actually going to be compromised, and not be the world's currency, reserve currency? What, you think the euro is going to get in? Don't be silly. You think the yen would hate to be the world's reserve currency. That is a fact, because then it would increase in value, and it's no good for them. It really is. Circle. Circle. Let's have a look at Circle. Our favorite thing, Circle. Let's have a look. What has Circle done today? Oh, this is the weekly. Let's have a look at the daily. Yeah, it's not really done too much. Bullish. This is accumulation game, ladies and gentlemen. Bullish is getting smacked a little bit, but it's still in its infant stages. You've got to be patient with Bullish. Circle, some more partnerships are going to be declared soon. I really believe that that's coming into play. They keep drip feeding certain partnerships. All right, you hear about something that's getting endorsed for stable coins, okay? And then a partnership arrives. Last week, it was banks are starting to consider and exercise practices to investigate stable coins. Before you know it, you're going to hear, you heard it here, before you know it, and I'm making an assumption here. I don't have no insider or any information. It's just the nature of the beast of understanding a sector, understanding how the history of the stock market works when it comes to mergers, acquisitions, buyouts, and partnerships, okay? New IPOs. If banks are investigating the idea of starting stable coins and getting involved in stable coins, where are they going to turn? They're going to go and turn to one of the biggest companies that provide stable coins. Certainly not going to go to Tether. Most definitely not. They're going to go to Circle. So you could hear in the future that a big bank or a bank is going to get into partnership to investigate how to start creating stablecoins or using stablecoins. Circle is going to be the company that actually helps them do that. You'll hear about it. That's why all this volume down here is all accumulation. All right? I think that most of cryptocurrency, now hear me out. I'm going to leave you with this, okay? I believe that most of cryptocurrency's gains, okay, is going to be endorsement from people investing and doing business partnerships with cryptocurrency-based companies that are listed in the stock market. Simple. I believe that. I believe that if you hear great news on Circle, cryptocurrency moves up. And it's only guys in cryptocurrency that will do it. The stock itself will benefit. Legacy markets will be like, okay, we're getting involved in cryptocurrency. It's part of it anyways, but, we're not really buying the crypto. But who cares about not your keys, not your wallet? We're here just to make a quick buck. Let's start buying up this stock and we'll sell it towards the next couple of quarters, earn ourselves a couple of shares, earnings per share, whatever. Okay? That's where I think it's all going to go. That's why you've got big companies in crypto that are trying to buy each other out. Cypher Mining, okay? They're a company listed on the US stock market, getting into bed with Google. Happy days. I'm telling you, it's all that's how you're going to get your market cap in cryptocurrency, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we're going to start seeing the trillions of dollars of market cap in crypto. It's all going to be based off Wall Street doing business together with cryptocurrency companies in the stock market, because that endorsement itself is going to encourage companies to do work. Okay? It's going to encourage investors to get involved. And if they're getting involved in companies on the stock market, people in crypto are going to be like, yeah, let's just buy Bitcoin. And then more people talk about it. So if they don't want to buy Circle, they go and buy Bitcoin because it's going to be a benefit. See what I mean? That's the direction I think it's going to go. Do you feel we'll have another shakeout? Do you feel like we'll have another shakeout or before Bitcoin breaks all-time high? In my opinion, Bitcoin will break the all-time high if the news is backing it. That's what it is. You've got all these OG Bitcoin holders that are shorting the life out of it, right? So I said, like, futures markets dictate the price. They dictate it because you've got equal amount of people that hold a lot of Bitcoin, right? But they're short in the direction. That's why I say to you, if you're either buying Bitcoin just to have it, or you are buying Bitcoin to make money from it. And some of these Bitcoin OG wallets, they hold the Bitcoin, but they short it. They just want to make the money. And they're certainly not in it for the tech. They ain't give two shits about the tech. Tino is acting like a Hex or XRP cult holder with Circle. Damn no. No chance. No chance. This was a shakeout. Only margin and off-chain survived. Okay. Don't get me, I'm not complaining. Okay, sorry. So in my honest opinion, the dirtiest, here we go. Dirtiest thing the market could do is making an all-time high this week just to not enable people to place a buy limit orders. Short squeeze all the way up, isn't it? Yeah, you can trade silver on BTCC. Yep. Mateus, where are you going with that? That's a bit of a question. Here we go. Got one here. If I'm stupid, not built to trade, DCA into all world, AI and energy ETFs, materials, and Bitcoin is valid to preserve and build wealth. The problem that people have is this, right? Buy Bitcoin. Let's say you bought Bitcoin at 100K, okay? Unless you're buying one whole Bitcoin for you to make money, right? A fair amount of money. Bitcoin goes to 100, 200K, made itself value of 100K value in your purchase, okay? But if you're buying 10K's worth of Bitcoin and then it goes from now to 130,000, okay, or it goes to 230,000, yeah, you are doubling your money because Bitcoin's doubled in price. But you're only making 20K, okay? So the idea is that you're either going to do the following. You're either going to take advantage of buying Bitcoin on spot and take advantage of the frequent swings. Because if you're buying Bitcoin to hold on to it till the end of time, I mean, Bitcoin's price would need to go to, well, to earn 3 times the amount, to make 30 grand, right? To build generational wealth. And you buy 10 grand's worth of Bitcoin, you're not making generational wealth with 10 grand, as in just holding Bitcoin. Bitcoin would have to go to Michael Saylor's 13 million for you to really make a good return. And that's what he expects by 2049. So it's the only way you can get around it is if you exploit the volatility. That's the truth. That means you shouldn't care about Bitcoin's price. You care about the increments it goes up in or down in if you're shorting it. So right here, Bitcoin makes a move from 108 all the way up to 24,000. Can you profit from that move? Even if you take 50% of the move, you still made some money, right? It's dropped back down again. And now from this area here, say you just went long in this area here, 109, it's now made a little bit of a move to, let's just say it moves all the way up to 118,000. You've made a 9 grand move on Bitcoin. How much is that worth to you? Keep on exploiting the drops and the rises in price. Cool. But the problem that people have is this. They buy Bitcoin here, right? They'll buy it here. Then hypothetically, Bitcoin starts to do this. And then it goes down and it sits at 92. Let's assume that it takes, for example, 2 months to get to that point, right? Then it spends another 6 months going sideways. And then after those 6 months, Bitcoin's doing this, okay? After those 6 months, it drops back down again and then goes up and down and then keeps on going lower. And then it bottoms out at the 70 zone. And then, of course, Bitcoin then spends 2 more, 3 more months, 5 months trying to work its way back up again to effectively come back into this range, go back up and down. And then you're there thinking, for God's sake, man, I started buying all the way over here. So I could have made money from this bounce, could have made money from that bounce, could have made money on that bounce, maybe that one, maybe this one, Could have gone short from this. Okay? Could have gone short from this. Because I can promise you, you're going to see a peak in Bitcoin and a drop. That's what you're going to get. And you can see it in real time. It's there. Look, it's all in front of you. There's a peak. It's come back down. Take advantage of the trade. If it works in your favor, happy days. All right? Moves back up again. Cool. But if you're holding on to the trade, like what everyone else did back when Bitcoin hit its first all-time high of 67,000, okay? 67, 68. And everyone held it until 16,000. Well, just look at the price fluctuations from that point. Let's just look at the price fluctuations. Right? This is on the daily, okay? But it's dropping. Could take advantage of a little bit of a move here. Drop, reversal, drop, reversal, drop, reversal, drop, up, down, up, down, up, down, all this up, down shit. And you accumulate all of the price differences that you've been getting in on Bitcoin, right? Say for one move was there from 32,000 all the way up to 46,000, okay? Yeah, 14, 15 grand move right there, okay? How much is that worth to you? But if you're buying Bitcoin at the all-time highs over here, okay, sorry, the all-time highs over there, right? And you're holding on to it because you want it to go back up, you're screwing yourself. You would have had to have waited from November 21 all the way up until March 24 to break even. That's dead. That's really dead. Because you sold the idea of DCA. Naturally, you would have to wait a long time. But the question is, would you have earned the same amount of money if you were exploiting each of the retraces or the fades or the rallies? Obviously, the art is to understand when to do it, of course. But would you have earned more money on the different price fluctuations? That's the question. Because you would have sat through this wild drawdown for it to come back up to only bring you back down 50% nearly. That's flipping dead. But yeah, if you held on to it, you would have been laughing. But you were never going to know that, were you? You'll never know fully if it was going to do that, because Bitcoin could have easily just dropped even further back down to 30K from here. But we're, of course, going into an easing cycle, Donald Trump and all that. That is what was fueling everything. You know, January, ETFs and all that fun and games. So everything was being primed for Bitcoin to go to the upside, in my opinion, at that time. Tino, Steve believes that the top is in. Optical art crypto. Do you think that's all we get this cycle? I don't think so yet, but it looks iffy. Okay. The problem is people are basing Bitcoin's top on the idea of technical analysis. No, I really do not think this is Bitcoin's top. No chance. It's going to pull back a little bit. Yeah, but this is not the top. Top what? To lead into the next bear market? Ladies and gentlemen, they've cut the interest rates once. 25 basis points. All right? Trump wants 100. The Fed would like to cut, but not until inflation goes down. All right? Gold's going up because interest rates are being cut. Bitcoin is going to continue to move up. I do not think that this is Bitcoin's all-time high. No. It's not. Because you're in a macro-driven environment, this behavior here is consistent with Bitcoin just going up. Your ETF accumulation isn't stopping. 3.7 billion Friday. That was the total inflows. People are basing it off technical analysis. Not now. You can't. You base it off technical analysis when you are in a market where you're not prone to any news announcements. So if you have zero interest rates or very low interest rates, inflation isn't a problem, economy is doing well, you think you give two damns about your FOMC? No. You think you care about non-farm payrolls? No. You're not interested in it. Why? Because it's all good. And plus money's cheap. But now we've got a change in things. You got the Japanese who are having to consider increasing their interest rate. That means there's going to be a transition from the dollar into the yen. That can have an impact on the stock market. Naturally, that can lead the stock market lower, right? Because interest rates are changing. Right now, we've got the US trying to change their interest rates. Even if they cut another 25 basis points, still expensive. Trump wants lower rates. You know? So I don't believe that we're done yet. No. Phil, short term. Phil coin. Filecoin. I mean, shock. That is dead. Wow. Damn it, man. There'd have to be some massive... Whoa. Mad love for the memberships, my man. Thank you for giving that to everyone. Thank you, bro. Who is it? Harry Potter. Back at it. With the magic. Looking at this, you got vectors down here. And this is what I'm waiting for. I want to see the majority of wicks been taken. But you got to remember, this is a lightly traded coin. It can easily sweep into those and come straight back up into it. So just take that into consideration. Okay. What about the gap ups in the stocks, Tino? Those will always get recovered and swept. That's how it works. So if we just go and have a look at the gap ups in the stock market, you got Nvidia here, okay? So Nvidia gapped up, they closed the gap and they've moved away from it. They'll always close gaps and open gaps. It's always going to be the case with the stock market. Tesla, yeah, gap up right there. That'll be something they visit later on, okay? I expect Tesla to come to its all-time high again, 470. They are going to come back to that point. I believe that. They're going to do it. Okay. Microsoft. Basing out. Yeah. Another all-time high, I believe. For Microsoft. Most definitely. Amazon. Yeah, she's coming back into these. Most definitely. Most definitely. They'll come back and eat this liquidity here first. That's what you got to watch out for the NASDAQ too. NASDAQ's got this gap down here. So that's something you got to take into consideration. Okay. Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you can read the TV, then you know that you've liked the stream. If you don't like the stream, never mind, ladies and gentlemen. At least I've given you some form of flavor. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. And tomorrow is Pow Day, ladies and gentlemen. And he's actually speaking at 5:20. Never mind. Take care of yourselves, gang. Mad love and respect. Peace.